Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here with you today. It's a pleasure for me. And as you see, we are going to talk about the human age and where the talent would be the driver of business growth and success, which is really topic nowadays. I would like to structure a little bit the time with you today afternoon. I'm going to talk a little bit about the trends that we see as Manpower Group affecting, influencing the world of work, and then some example about the what and the how these changes happen in our daily life, actually, and what we read and hear, read on the newspaper and hear lately on TV, and the last but not least, the implication of these changes for organization, how they play the future of workforce, how they are able to align the workforce to the business strategy, which is key nowadays to be competitive and win in the world of work. So will be a little bit the conversation that we would have today. And I hope to take no more than 20 minutes, and then I will give you the possibility to ask questions, and I will be delighted to answer to your questions. Let's get cover. So we live in an environment that in Manpower Group we use to call the uncertain and uncertainty. And now I want to explain what does it mean. Actually, it's better to explain with an example. 2008, 2009, when the recession struck, I thought, as the majority of the leaders, that this recession was one like the others. You know, we went through, in our almost 70 years of history in Manpower Group, a lot of recessions. And everyone seems a little bit like the others. And then when in 2010, the majority of the leaders see some relief, we said, okay, we are back to normal. This was just like the others. And now we know how to manage, the recession. But actually, it wasn't. Because we realized just a couple of years later, and now we are in 2015, you know very well, that that was not a cyclical recession, was not normal, but actually a structural one, which is completely different. Now, what does it mean? Leading a company nowadays need to be very dynamic, very agile, very flexible, and so you need talent which are key nowadays to manage this challenging organization in an environment that is changing rapidly, and especially you are competing not only inside your sector, your vertical, but as we heard before also here in Prismian, the boundaries of the sectors are shadowed nowadays, are not so clear, and so the competition can come also from other industry, And another thing is that we have a lot of geopolitical events that now are affecting broadly, our economy, our life, and this is something that actually is affecting also the business. So that's why we are talking about certainty and uncertainty. And looking at the slide, you see that we are now talking about the economic recovery. We are a little bit positive. We have sign of positive. Actually, US is a little bit ahead than Europe, as we know. And in Europe, the recovery is still slow, still very slow, especially in Italy, we see. We are now positive 0.3, but it's not enough, and we really hope to see an acceleration in the next quarter. And actually, this recovery is globally uneven. We have seen and we see still some slow job creation, and this is something that is affecting especially Europe. So we are not out of this recovery. At the same time, we are living in rapid advances in technology. We see how technology, I heard also from the group's presentation before, that you pick up some interesting points and words talking about technology. Technology actually is changing rapidly and is affecting our daily life, not only jobs, but also daily life. So this is something which we need to take in strong consideration. And then shifting demographics, we will see later on that demography continue to decline worldwide. And it's a big challenge for growth. Now I want to talk a little bit about Manpower Group, and you will understand why in a while, not just talking about us, but the importance of the big data that we gather every day. We are a company founded in 1948 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So almost 70 years life, 20 billion listed in the stock exchange revenue, you see. And quite unusual for an American company, 85% of our revenues are generated, you see, outside US. And this is very peculiar. But we have 12 million people interviewed, 11 million people trained, more than 4.5 million people on job per year, and actually you see 600,000 people every day. So these are big numbers and are very important if you are able to take this data and look at this data in a critical way. You know that nowadays data management, big data management, is very important. So we look at this data not only, for shaping and aligning our strategy to the world of work that is changing, but we look at this data also because we want to understand in advance the changes of the world of work, and we want to advise our clients in order to help them to win in this competitive environment. And this is actually, it's really very important. And if we look at our strategy, maybe the majority of you knows Manpower as a staffing company. Actually, in the last decade, we moved from the staffing company to a consulting company, and so 40% of our business actually is on the consultancy, actually, on outsourcing. So it's a more complex business, and this is what we realized looking in advance of what was going on in the world. That's why it's very important having data, looking at data, and you see how many data do we have every day. Based on that, I want to talk a little bit about what we think are the world of work trends as Manpower Group. And we have identified 4 important trends, you see, and we will talk about them in a while. And the importance of this trend is that actually they have been conveying at the same time, and that's conversion is actually what we call the human age. That actually is very important because we can understand that access to talent is now key to stay competitive, to be successful in every segment, in every business. So, looking a little bit about these 4 trends, you see demographies. We have a very strong talent mismatch that is deepening as the working age population decline and the nature of works are changing. And this is something that we will talk deeply in a while in order to understanding which is the impact on the world of work. And then we have technological revolution. We talk about it just a little bit before, but this is about how work is changing through technologies. We are changing. We are working in a completely different way, and how employers are thinking about a new way of works that will affect, our job in the future. And then the individual choice, which is really something important that very often we are not looking at it carefully. It's about the Generation Z, the millennials, that actually they have a strong individual choice because it's the first generation that is global. We will talk about it in a while. And they have, the ambition to make different experience and at least to change between 14, 17 jobs in their career life. So this is something that you understand will be impacting heavily, the way we manage this generation. And the way we manage this generation in comparison with the previous generation. So this is actually very interesting. And last but not least, the rise of customer sophistication. You know that we are in a global world, actually, even if in Italy it's hardly to understand for many small companies, even if they are not global, they are affected by globalization, because the value chain nowadays of the business is built up through the countries. It's actually global. So the sophistication, thanks to the transparency that we have in this value chain, is something that is rising, and this is something that we need to take in account, and is affecting also, of course, the world and the skills needed. Moving rapidly, an observation about the shifting demographies. You see here some important trends and statements you can read easily. But I want just to point out, because you have a lot of information in the chart, that demographics actually, it's about mathematics. I don't know who of you knows, because you know that when a population start to go below 2.1, the population start to decrease. 2.1 is 2 children for 1 couple. This is the measure when the countries are going down 2.1, the population means that is going down. And this is, we will see in a while, is something that is affecting actually the potential growth of the country. If you pick up, let's have a look at Europe. In Italy, we have a birth rate of 1.3. Germany is pretty the same. And France, by the way, is the only country where the birth rate is rising. And this is quite unusual. US is holding on 2.1, so they are keeping at the moment, and this is pretty good. And you see, we saw before that US are still growing, and the recovery is much better than we see here in Europe, it's ahead of Europe. And the same, and that's maybe sounds a little bit strange, is for, you know, the developers, the emerging countries. Pick up China, that actually is peaking at the top of the rising population because of the politics of one child, you know, and also Japan, which is actually the country that is not growing in the last decade because of the aging population. And if you have read, I think it was last week on the newspaper, is not growing for 34 years in a row. So it means that the young generation is not growing in Japan for the last 34 years. And you understand why, you know, Japan will have many challenges for its growth in the next decade. And it will have very likely, you know, one worker to support to retirement. This will be in 10 years, more or less, what we see in Japan. So, say that, you understand that why this is important for the world of work, for the labor market. Because, of course, if the population is decreasing, is shrinking, of course, there is a challenge for growth. And you know that we have two levers, only two levers, to cope with this challenge, offset this challenge. The two levers are, one, we need to increase productivity. And increase productivity means having different skills and also investing in technology. And the second one is about immigration. We need policy for immigration because probably Italy needs a different policies for immigration in order to keep on growth, and this will be a challenge not only for Italy but for many countries. So that's it's really what I want to say on demographic, because it's really very important to have in mind this few data that give you the possibility to understand what is going on. Continue talking about generation and population, because we were talking about the difficulty that we have in growing up in the majority of the emerging country and the developer country. By the 2020, very likely we will have 5 generations on work. Actually, this is a little bit difficult in Europe to have all the 5 at the same time, because you know that in Europe we have mandatory retirement, which is not the same in the other countries. So probably, very likely in Europe, we will not have all the 5s, but in the majority of the country, this is what will happen. And the consequence of 5 generations at the same time on duty, we can say, it's how to manage the different expectation and the different needs of this generation. And this is a challenge, especially, as I told you before, when we are talking of Gen Z, which are the millennials, which are the first global generation, and actually they work completely different. They like to work based on project, horizontal in organization, and you know that the majority of our organizations are still vertical. And this is actually, it's a big challenge for any organization, how to manage all these different needs at the same time. So this is something we, as leaders of organization, we need to think about in order to find new models to cooperate all together and to try to leverage the potential of each of these generations. That's actually very, very important. I want to step back a little bit and talk about technology that we touched base before. Technology, we know, is very important. We have said it in different ways, but I want even here to try to focus your attention on what is distinctive nowadays in technology. Because, you know, if we look back, we have disrupted technology many times along the years, you know. It's not the first time that we have new technologies, you know, or disruptive technology affecting our jobs or our organization. We had a lot. The main difference is the magnitude and the scalability nowadays of the technology and the speed. One of the groups said before, and the speed. The speed is really very important. If you think for a while that we took 150 years before the first phone call, and the web, and around 16 years from the web and the iPhone and the Steve. So the compression of the timing became really great. And also, I don't know, it takes around, I think, 40 years for the TV to get 50 million users, around 3 years for the web to get 50 million users, and 1 year for Twitter. Just some example that can make you think about this compression that we see led by technology. And that's, you know, has got a big impact on skills. You can imagine what does it mean for people that, every one of us, that is working nowadays and need to continue to be employable because of this disruptive technology that continues to go on. That's really important to keep in mind because, you know, we need more and much more continuous learning, continuous improvement in order to be updated, to be employable. This is a word that is very important, you know. And this is something that affects not only the organization, but you see also the nations, the governments nowadays. That's something that is happening and is very connected with what we have just said, because we are seeing a bifurcation of the workers. We have the ones that have and the ones that have not. And we are talking about the skill. The ones that have the skills and are strongly in demand, and the ones that have low skill and they are actually unemployed. And this is actually it's a bifurcation that we see especially in Europe. And it's a big challenge if you think for a while, because in the last decade, we will move from large unemployment, where we are now, more or less with different rates in different countries, to a large skill shortage, which is already going up in the last couple of years. So this is what we will see in the next decade. So it's important to keep in mind in order to understand where we are going. And I feel that this is the future, you see, of the European workforce. You see that actually worldwide, 38% of the employers are not finding the skills that they are looking for. So it comes out from a survey that every year Manpower Group made. It's a survey of over 40,000 employers in the world, and you can have access to this service just going to our website. It's public. It's very interesting. And you see that even in Italy, we have 28%, which is pretty interesting. 28%. And if we compare this 28% with more than 12%, 12% plus unemployment, and over 40% youth unemployment, you understand the contradiction. It's a paradox, actually, that we are living at the moment between, skill shortage and youth unemployment. And you understand that this is surely about the educational system, because we have young people that they became graduate, they are well informed, but not ready for work. And here we have a big challenge about internship. That is something that in Italy, but also in other countries, is not working very well, and so we have this difficulty to enter in the labor market. This is something really very, very keen, and you can find here below the top 10 most difficult jobs to fill in Italy. You see that are skilled trade workers, actually technicians, is the third, office support staff, sales representative, accounting and finance and IT, and so on. So this is something, that is going on. But let's take a pause and let's understand a little bit when we talk about talent, what does it mean, what talent means, actually. And because it's very important to understand also this chart. When we talk about talent, it's not only we talk not only about hard skills of the individual. We are talking about mostly about soft skills. Soft skills nowadays are much more important than hard skills. With soft skills, I mean, your ability to communicate, your ability to lead a group, your curiosity, your creativity, your ability to solve problems, to fix it, especially in your daily job. These are the soft, and you need to know that soft skills nowadays count around 60% in an interview. That's very important. And actually, our schools usually do not prepare the young generation to develop these soft skills, especially in Italy. If you go in Europe, even in Spain, that we consider, in the south and not very, very updated as a country, in schools you can learn about entrepreneurship, you can learn about economics that are horizontal and are very important in order to develop these soft skills for young generation. So we have made together a very short, a very quick journey, and we understand that now the normal is actually completely different. So we are facing a new normal that is driven by talent, that would be actually the driver of business growth and business success. When I talk about talent and skills, and I talk about talent with the right skills, and the organization, the employers, has to understand very clearly which are the core of skills that they need, not only for today's, but for the future. And this is actually an activity that required a lot of time, a lot of vision, and professional support. Because nowadays, you know, it's very important. We are talking of human age, not anymore about capital. You can find capital everywhere. The cost of capital very low. Nowadays, what is challenging is finding the right people, as I told you. So this is the new normal, and we need to think at it in this way if you want to be successful. Now, the implication, and I'm going to finish this short speech. The implication for the organization. What we suggest, we highlight as Manpower Group based on our broader experience is that company has to look at talent sourcing in a different way. So how we need to attract and retain talent. This is something very important. Spending time on talent attraction and retention is a very key activity nowadays. The second one is talent management. We need to work differently at the work models. How do we manage talent to drive productivity? How do we manage a diverse workforce? So different work model and talent management is another key pillars. And then talent development, people practice, as I told you before. People practice is very important. Continuous learning, developing practice for people in order to help them to be always updated, always employable. So that's all. I'm going to stop my conversation, and I'm ready to answer to your questions.
Thank you, Stefano. Thank you very much. Let me see whether there is something. Here you go. Immediately you get one.
Well,
not even the need to jump in here, yeah? You have been very
lucky.
No, stimulating
the curiosity.
Thanks. Francesco Mbas 9, sorry.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for the very interesting presentation. I come from the oil and gas industry, where the lack of skills is becoming more and more urgency, actually, and it starts being also a problem of safety sometimes, because in chemical plants, if you don't have skills, it becomes dangerous. Well, I have two observations, and I'd like to have your comments about what you said about the 5 generations working at the same time. My experience is that, for example, between me and my boss, with just 10 years older than me, I noticed there is a different way of approach things. For example, he needs to print the documents to check them. I do it on the screen. Or for example, the older people are used to do one thing at a time, while the new generation, and the more farther you go, they want to do 3, 4 things at the same time, because they are used to surf internet and surf 5 websites at the same time. Probably I'm not very popular here, but I guess in some things the older type of working improved the quality. Probably it was not the quickest way, but probably quality for the older people, the quality was more important. That's one observation. And the other one about this very, very big contradiction of unemployment and lack of skills. To me, it looks, well, you're right saying that the education system is a problem. I have two ideas here. One is the orientation before starting the studies. I remember when I was in UK, I saw my colleagues, there were a lot of colleagues studying music, for example, and nobody studying engineering or law. So, well, of course, people like to do more arts, but at a certain point, it would be good at least to give indication for people to do something that will bring them a good future. The other thing is that often companies, once the how to say, they want the cake cooked without mixing the ingredients and putting in the oven, or want the baby without pregnancy. I mean, in the past, especially the big company used to hire young people, train them, and they knew that the first 2-3 years were not very productive. But at the end, it was an investment for the future. Now the company wants already the 20 years old experienced guy, but there can be so many. Stop, sorry, I spoke too much.
No, thank you very much for your question. Answering to the first one about the quality, actually it's not a matter of quality. I can say that you can find a lot of quality also with the Generation Z. It's a different way to approach the work, and it's about different needs and also different work-life balance that they have. Actually, it's really challenging, as you said, to work with all this generation, even if they are 5 or 3, and probably in Italy we are not yet ready to do it in a proper way. You can see, for instance, some good example, good practices in the northern countries. So if you go to Sweden, to Norway, this way, the best practices, how to manage different generation, are more spread out in the organization. If you look at Italy, 20% of the company, they are not even looking at the succession plan. So it's a big challenge. Talking about what you said for the second comment, I agree with you. Especially in the last decade, we have a lack of training, especially in our country. The majority of the company, they didn't invest in training, in continuous learning. Besides the big multinational or big company that are very few in our countries, unfortunately, because of the recession, they didn't invest in training, and you are absolutely right. But this is not the same in other countries. If you go to UK, if you go again in the Nordics, or in France, which is very close to us, the situation, the picture is slightly different. So it's very typical of a country where 95% of the industry are below 9 employees. So this is Italy. It's a retail economy. And that's why we have many challenges nowadays. So
okay,
thank you very much.
There are the two there with his, yeah, and then Marco.
Gregorio Fuginiti, MBAS 9. Okay. I would like to know your point of view about job acts effect in Italian labor market, because I heard a lot of rumors, comments, it's work, it doesn't work, it's too early. But your point of view is very useful.
Thank you for the questions that I think it's very
expected.
Expected.
Because I think I would have expected this question.
Actually, I think I have a positive judgment on a positive view on job acts, because it's the first time that we are trying to combine flexibility for the company, for the organization, with the security for the workers. This is something that Job Acts actually is trying to cope, and it means to become modern for our market. It's not enough, because that is going to be approved within the end of June. What I call the heart of the reform, which is about the labor services, public or private. This is the engine of the reform, because actually our market is not transparent, is not efficient, and this is actually is one of the weakness that we have in this very moment. So if we would have a more professional market with professional service, very likely we will have also different consistency in selecting, assessing, in orienting people in a different way. So this is something that is lacking at the moment in Italy. And also it's about, we need to be also very honest, it's about culture, because you know that in our country, actually 60% of the selection of permanent jobs goes without, we can say, professional or public salary, but goes through something relationship, personal relationship, which is, very bad for the potential growth of our country, because you are not assessing these people, you're not evaluating the potential of these people and the skills that probably the company needs, and this is a big problem. So it's a cultural issue also where we need to move forward in order to become a much modern country.
Marco?
Marco Piacentini, Embas 10. In a digital era, the competencies are inherently global. And so you mentioned that there is a possible transfer of human resource competencies through countries. On the other hand, you mentioned about soft skill, which are typical local skill. And this should be the differentiation element within HR. So at the bottom line, HR business is a local or a global business?
It's a glocal. So it's a combination of the two. Thank you for the question. It's a combination of the two. Actually, the mobility of workers, of talents, will be increasing in the next decade. You will see how the talent will move through the countries, And the talent, so for the organization, being an organization that is able to attract talent will be distinctive. And if you see in US what is going on, what is happening, even internally, between the different states, people is moving where there are hub of innovation with higher wages, and so it's really very, very important to create hub of innovation if you want to become not only as organization but also as a country a talent attractive country. So this is very important. You say local. Yes or no? Of course, we need to understand our local behaviors. But nowadays, when we talk with multinational company, the majority of the training are about multiculturals, ability to manage people through webinar or not at distance, we can say. So this is something that is changing. Of course, you need to understand the culture of the other countries. That's why being a multicultural manager nowadays is very important. But this is, you can learn.
There is one in the back over there.
Hi, Flavio Tosi, MBA 26. I saw your first chart about the growing population. I would like to ask you, do you think that growing population is mandatory? And this respect to what has been decided to do in France, about the 35 hours week?
Yeah, as I told you before, growing population nowadays, it's a challenge worldwide. As I told you, the majority of the countries are not growing. Actually, globally speaking, the only ones that are positive in growth are the Middle East and North African countries. So, but this is not enough. So in order to continue to grow, considering the disruption of technology and that this disruption is actually reducing jobs, you need to grow up in the population in order to have, potential growth in the future. Otherwise, it will be a big challenge. Considering the aging of the population and the retirement, we need to have, different birth rates to propel the growth of the countries and of the world, the entire world. So this is key. It's very important.
There is one here, second row, third row.
Good evening, Gilberto Riccobona, MBA 15. I'm Italian, but I don't live in Italy. I am an entrepreneur. I have my own company, which is in the conventional business. It's a mechanical company. And I have a big challenge. I am a customer of Manpower, by the way. So my good guy.
Thank you very much for the endorsement.
But I have a big challenge, retaining the Y generation. In my company, if I make the story short, I have two generations, the one above 45, which is very stable in my eyes. They look for security and so on. And the one below 35, because since I arrived in the company, I acquired the company. I am trying to renew, invest in new technologies, blah, blah, blah. But I have a real challenge in retaining them. Do you have a clue? Do you have a key how to act with this generation, which is the one surfing on the internet and changing TV channel every 3 seconds and so on? And then I have a second question, which is nothing to do with the first one. You say that there's a challenge in finding talents, even in Italy. A lot of companies are complaining about recruiting and so on, difficulties in recruiting and so on. But on the other hand, we hear every day on the TV and so on about unemployment and very high unemployment rates, including in the senior, for the senior and so on, which means experienced people. What is the consistency between these two very different messages that we can hear today?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. The first one, it will take a longer discussion, but I agree with you. This generation, they don't look only at the wage, at the money, they look for a career path and opportunities. So you need to be able to give to them a career path because this is something that they are looking for. This is just a simple advice that I can give you. Of course, we need to spend more time, but such a kind of people are looking for opportunities, career path. They are more willing than the 45s that are more stable because they actually think to be at the end, but they don't realize that actually it will be challenging for them in the next couple of years. So try to think about career path opportunity, for these people, job. I don't know if you are multinational or or you are all in Italy. So giving to them some challenges, I think it's very important for these people. And also you cannot believe that these people will stay with you, because as I told you, they would like to change at least more than 14 jobs in their lives. But it's important that you try to keep them for the time being that you think it's valuable for your organization, you know. And that's why you need to prepare, you know, a pipeline, a succession, in order always to be ready also for their leaving. The second question, you are right. This is it's a contradiction that we are living in, but this is something real in Europe and especially in our country. Our country, youth unemployment is huge, over 40%, which is the worst country in Europe, the worst even before Spain. You know why? Because we have more than 6 million of young people with long-term unemployment, or they are not studying or in education. So we have a big issue, which is not only about education. I think it's also about the culture, you know, that we have in this country. And this is something that needs an extraordinary plan that the government is not tackling at the moment. Because you can easily understand that this is, can provoke tensions, and we have recently some example of the tension that this situation can cause. So actually it's a social problem at the end. It's not only a problem for employers or for organizations.
Excellent. We have 55 seconds for a last question and an answer. If not, I have one, and we have 46 seconds. A comment on female employment in Italy, because we didn't talk about it. I think it's a big issue. Yeah, a recipe for Italy in 36 seconds.
It's a big issue. Again, it's a cultural issue, especially in the South, because, you know, when we talk about averages, it's always wrong. You know better than me. The devil is in the details. If we look at also at the unemployment rate in Lombardia is 6%, in Campania and Sicily is 20%. So talking about average, the same for women. You know, we have more than 50% of women not in jobs in the South, but this is a cultural issue. Actually, we have not also a policy of integration of women. You know better than me, in many companies, we have still differences between men and women also in the wages. So this is something that we need to overcome very quickly, and I feel that the government should push a little bit more with work-life balance services for women, but also giving, you know, to the company some tax credit in order to boost a little bit the inclusion of women in the labor work. I think this is very important.
Stefano Scabbio, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate
I enjoyed.
Really appreciate